Hey everyone, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Yay! Fantastic. All right, we're just going to leave a few more minutes to have a few more people pop on before we get started. Hey Krista, we're going to
Hello.
get started in just a few minutes. If you guys want to go ahead and mute yourselves for now, and then I will jump back on here in a second after I do a little intro.
And you can hear me, right?
Yep. Yay! Okay, it is 11:01 on my time, but I think it's most people's noon. So we're going to go ahead and get started, especially since we have so much information to cover today. So hello and welcome to part 4 of our second annual Meaningful Change series. I just want to take a moment. This series has been so amazing so far. A little bit of a trip down memory lane here. We got to chat with Praxis, where they presented the citizen data that they have on our community, and they showed us that patient journey, which unbeknownst to them, it was actually of Stella. And so being able to see all that information was just phenomenal. We also had a lovely life course trajectory tool workshop with Heather and Miri. And I'm really excited about that. Just kind of a little bit of a teaser here. We are thinking about trying to do some type of workshop where we can come together as a community and work on those trajectory tools together. Because I know sometimes we give you the tools and then who has time for that, right? And so we would love to work on something like that for the future. So just know that that is something we're looking at. And then also last week we had a conversation with Michael Chiodini. He talked to us about the long-term financial planning, which was so amazing. A little overwhelming. It was so much information, but still information that we need to know. So, and then today we actually have the pleasure of chatting with several SCNAA moms. And we are going to talk about vehicle and home modifications. And then we also threw in there some different sleeping alternatives for our kids as far as bed and traveling with our kids. So I do want to take a moment before we get started to give a huge shout out to our two lead sponsors, Praxis Precision Medicines and Neurocrim Biosciences, for sponsoring this event this year. It's all because of them that we're able to come together as a community and enjoy all of this rich information that we are learning. So I am going to go ahead and invite all of our guests here today. So come on. And as you guys are making your way on screen, just as a little bit of a reminder, we have housekeeping items today. So again, to your right, you guys can use the chat box, ask any questions as we're going through. Shelly's actually going to be the one that's going to pull up the PowerPoint presentation today. So then that way I can keep an eye on the chat box as we go through. And then if you have any technical issues as well, make sure you jump on the chat and either Shelly or Megan can take care of you today. And then just as a reminder, again, next week, same day and time, it's going to be on Tuesday from 12 to 1 at East Central Time. We are going to talk at our last Meaningful Change series event for this year with Neurocrin. And so they're going to give us an update on some clinical trial endpoints and just general updates from Neurocrin. So we're really excited to hear from them as well. So, okay, let's see who we got here. We got Sandy, Nora, Krista, Karen, and Shelly's the one that's going to screen share. I think we're still waiting for Dianelli and I'm trying to think, was there anybody? Who else are we missing? Is that it? I didn't have my guest list right in front of me. So what we're going to do today is we have a lot of information to cover. And so we're going to start out. Hey, Dianelli.
Sorry about
I know
that.
everyone's like on their lunch hour. And so thanks for joining us. All right. So Shelly, if you want to go ahead and click onto the next slide here. So the first thing we're going to talk about are different vehicle modifications. And so we've got some pictures of a modified SUV that Krista has. And then we also have some side and rear entry vans. And then I'm going to share with you the chair lift that we have for Stella's van. So Krista, I'm going to have you start off, if you don't mind, to kind of chat with us a little bit about the modified SUV, maybe some reasons why you chose to do this route instead of a minivan, and then maybe share with us a little bit on if you had the chance to do it again, would you still do that route?
Absolutely. We did a lot of research. We generally like to do years worth of research before we make any major purchase, and this was no exception. I think we looked at modified vans as well as SUVs for a couple of years before we pulled the trigger. And for us, we really at the time felt like an SUV would fit our needs, would fit our our growing son's needs. And we looked really primarily at whether we wanted side entry or back entry. And when all was said and done, we decided that side entry made more sense for us. As a family, we like to travel. We wanted to make sure that if Connor had any medical needs, that I could be sitting in the back row, able to reach over and address any of his needs while my husband would be up in the pilot seat driving us. And so we went this route. I think at the time we were very happy with it. I think we're still very happy with it. But one thing we've learned from this particular SUV, which is a Bronability Ford Explorer, is that it, from a kind of depth standpoint in that middle position, which is where the wheelchair goes, as he's getting larger and bigger and his legs are getting longer, we're finding that we could have used more cavity space in there. So we, I think in the future, may look to see if a van could fit our needs better. Or we actually also know that the Chevy Traverse has launched a modified SUV as well. And I don't know the dimensions of that. So again, that might be an opportunity for us to take a look at that. But one of the other things that played into our purchase decision was the fact that, again, we do like to travel. We like to go on day trips, or we like to go to the beach. And we wanted to make sure for some of those longer drives where we might be in the car for 4, 6, 8 hours, that we had the ability to give Connor an opportunity to get out of his wheelchair and rest. Or if he needed a changing or something of that nature, we had the opportunity to do that. And this vehicle, in the small picture at the top, you can see where you can actually, in that back row seating area, you can fold the seats down and lay them completely flat. So that gives us an opportunity to get him out of his wheelchair and let him rest. And then, other times you just flip the chair back up, and then I can sit in that back seating position when we're in the travel mode.
Great. Hey, Krista, so Michelle has a question. She was curious if when we're talking about these different SUVs and vans, at what point in time did you buy that? Like, how old was Connor when you were like, okay, we need something different than just a traditional car seat? And did you buy this already modified, or did you have the car and modify it yourself?
So we bought it already modified. So lots of questions, great questions too. I will say as Connor started putting on weight and it got harder moving him from either his wheelchair or his Convey cruiser to picking him up and trying to get him safely into a car seat, we really started thinking about that. I think for us, that was around 6 years old. I think it's going to really depend on the weight of your child, but Connor's always been on the big side, both lengthwise and weight wise. So that was something we took into consideration. We started doing our research at about, he was 6 years old. In 2018 is when we actually made the purchase. And we had looked around for a while, as well as we went up to a local mobility super center here and test drove both some SUVs as well as some vans. And we test drove them as well as, kind of tested those entry points, the side versus the rear, to see what would we like better. And so in the end, once we decided we definitely wanted side and we wanted an SUV, we started looking around. We found this one actually down in North Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina. So we had the dealership meet us at an in-between point, since we live up in Virginia. They let us test drive it around. We actually met in Raleigh. So we test drove it around in Raleigh, for a day, to see if we liked the fit and feel and if it worked for Connor's needs. And we took Connor with us. So, we trialed out his wheelchair, worked great. We, said, okay, we need to think about this. We weren't ready to, make a big decision like that after one test drive. We met with the dealership one more time, decided we did like the vehicle, and then made the purchase and went down there and actually bought it. I think it was, 3-4 weeks later.
And then we kind of discussed during our pre-meeting, and you were saying now that Connor is getting a little bit bigger, that because we're kind of lacking in size, or that depth. How old is Connor now? Just kind of remind everybody.
Connor just turned 12.
Okay, so you've had the van for did we say 6 years? About 6 years?
Yeah.
Or not van, the Explorer. Okay,
Yeah,
so it's worked well for 6
years.
years. Yes, 40 years. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then
And
if you had to do it again.
Yeah, I'm saying definitely now that he's 12 and he's going to keep getting bigger. He's about 5 feet now. And so, he's pretty much still in the same kind of base of the wheelchair. The seating positionings has changed, but it's the same wheelchair base. And what at one time worked well when he wants to swing his legs, now doesn't work as well. The armrest, now he'll kick it, and can kick it very easily. So I think those are some things where, looking back, we may have said, hey, we don't have to drive an SUV, a van's okay. But again, I think, we know this isn't a one-time purchase. I wish it was. These vehicles take a beating. And so we, I think, made the right decision at the time. But I think for our next purchase, we'll consider a van if it gains us some additional space in that middle area.
Yeah, definitely. Okay.
Casey, I wanted to address about whether you purchased it already done in the warehouse or having it modified. And our very first van was a large van, oversized van, and we had it modified, and we had a lot of electrical problems by doing that. And minivans, if you kind of can see in some of the pictures, the floor is actually dropped versus in a regular minivan. And so to modify it, you lose headroom. So they pretty much say you need to buy it already factory modified.
Yeah. Hey, Shelly, actually, let's move on to the next slide. And I think it's Karen. We'll talk about her. Oh, actually, no, I forgot. Dianelli. Yeah. So you want to talk, Dee, a little bit about, you guys have a side entry van, and talk about what you like and maybe what you don't like about yours.
Yeah, sure. Yes, we have a side entry van, and I mean, I haven't had the back entry van, but I am very happy with it being a side entry van, for multiple reasons. We were lucky to have this van donated to us by Chive Charities, which is a wonderful organization that, as they put it, likes to fight for the underdog. That includes, first responders, military, and people with rare diseases. The van is their like big thing that they're able to get because they have this um, partnership with Dodge and Bronability to help get these vans at a considerable cost, so they don't have to raise as much. As many of you know, if you've done the research on modified vans, especially Bronability, they can run up to like $90,000 or more. Dodge gives it to them at a deal of 50,000, so that's why they're able to get it. Now, I don't like to be one that talks poorly of a gift that is given. Dodge would not have been my first choice. Our van, right off the bat, like the motor, and they've even changed it out, and I don't know if it's just a thing that happens. Sometimes doesn't fully work. Like the van, you'll press the button to open the side door, and all of a sudden, like it acts like something's stuck, and then it'll close back up on us. And we'll have to either keep pressing the button a few times for it to be like, okay, I'm okay now, or we'd have to physically open the door. And it's funny, it's only the side of where the ramp goes down. The other side is fine. The other side, I don't have that issue at all with opening it. And so I believe it has to do, with that motor that's connected to the ramp coming up and down. Um, that's really, honestly, in reality, that's really my only gripe with the van. It's a good van. It's gotten us to a lot of places that we never thought we were able to take Max to. Um, you know, Moving forward, and as Krista says, these cars do get beat up a lot. With the amount of travel you have to do with it, with just the weight that it takes in. So this is not a sports car for sure. So if you have a heavy foot, it's going to work really, really hard to get to you. It's not going to win you any racetrack, any races. Um, but because of all that weight, which is a good thing. And make sure that if you did have a heavy foot, that you have no choice but to drive slow. Um, but with if I'm looking at it long term, and I do my best with the maintenance and keeping it up, this could last us for a long time, even into Max's adulthood. It has that kind of space in the center to allow for however size, and we've done him facing away from the front and him facing towards the front. We decided to turn him away from the front, as a hope, in our minds, it's just a safer option. If he, but if let's say his chair starts getting bigger and bigger, there's still enough space if we want to turn him sideways. That
That's what I
would,
was gonna.
yeah,
Yeah,
that would
in
fit
these
sideways as
pictures.
well.
Yeah, these pictures he's rear facing. Shelley, if you want to go to the next one, I think I might have a picture of him front facing in the next slide. So we
Shelly, I don't think you'd want to tow anything behind you because of the weight. With the way at least my van is, there's like this, and I'm thinking it's part of the motor. I don't even know, but it's like this panel that goes almost to the ground on the back. So I don't even know if I could put a tow on the van. And even if I could, I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to add more weight to the van. I mean, again, with all the modifications that the van has, it's already weighing so much, or it's being weighted down so much. But that's just my personal opinion on it. You would have to talk to Ability. Maybe one of the other vans, you can have a bit of more success on it. But as I was saying before, as you can see, there's two different types of. I know with camping that is tough. But as you can see, the two types of wheelchairs Max has, and he's, obviously a considerable bigger size now than he was when we first. It's funny that I didn't even realize this. The picture on the left, that's when we first got the car, and the picture on the right is the more recent one. So you could see, Max is still able to grow with this fan. Um, so I'm forever grateful. The vans we were looking at, there was no way we were going to be able to afford those monthly payments at the time. So this came at the perfect time for us.
I can't believe how big he is in that picture to the right. He is a
know.
little man.
Stop it. Come to
I
stop it.
know. I know. Let's move on to the next slide. I think we've got Karen's side entry. And Krista mentioned this too, is test driving different types of vans. So whenever I actually went to United, what's it called? United Access, I believe, here in Springfield, and they had several different vans that actually had them park next to each other. So they had a Pacifica, and I think it was a Toyota and maybe a Dodge. And it was unbelievable how just between those three, how much room it differed from each van. Now, Karen, I can't remember what make and model do you have? Is it Town and Country?
So right now we have a Chrysler Town and Country.
Mm-hmm.
We had a Chevy high top van originally, and then I cannot, if my husband is watching, I can't remember what our second van was. It was horrible. The door, the sliding door literally fell off the side of the van. And we had it like, we bought it brand new, and I don't think they even make it anymore. But yeah, so we've had 3 different vans.
And I think they don't make the Town and Countries anymore. Now it's the Pacifica.
Okay.
But the Pacifica, from what I could see, didn't look quite as roomy as the Town and Country. But
yeah, the Town and Country is pretty roomy. I think we've gone on trips with at least 2 people on the back bench and then Lily in the middle, but it's tight. We ended up getting a luggage carrier to put all our luggage up top. And then, but if it's just Lily in there, then we can fit everything.
So as far as like behind the bench seat there that you see, there's some storage behind that.
Yes.
And would you say there's enough for a couple suitcases, or what kind, like how much do you think is behind there?
Yeah, you could probably, I would say like 1 suitcase and then maybe a couple of soft items, but on the side of Lily, we would put a couple of suitcases there. So the door that doesn't have the ramp, that's where we would put other suitcases. So we got pretty creative. It's like playing Tetris and putting your suitcases in around her. And my husband said it was a Buick that we had before. Yeah. They don't make them anymore.
Okay, gotcha. And just kind of to point out too, so one side has the ramp.
Right.
And then the other door still opens like a van door, so you can still get in and out. There's just obviously no ramp on that side.
Correct. That is correct.
And I know sometimes people will say, well, I don't want a side van because then you have to find a special parking spot that has the ramp to the side. Have you noticed, you or Deanelli, have you guys noticed that being an issue trying to find parking spots appropriate for your van?
Not for me, because at least in Miami, the majority of parking areas have something on either side, or I back in.
Yeah.
So so that's another reason why I like the side entry, because in those instances I could always back in and Max can get out on the side he needs to get out. Now I think we've all experienced those times where there's just some places that are not ADA compliant. Let's face it. Like there's this one part that has a handicap parking, but it doesn't have the thing for the wheelchair, the part for actually taking someone down. And then you also have individuals that park in that spot, right? I've even seen it in the hospital where that happens. But other than that, I've hardly any issues for me.
What I've noticed, especially when they're trying to pack in as many spaces in a parking garage as possible, sometimes those lined areas that you're supposed to be able to get your ramp out are not super wide. And so if a car happens to park just a little bit over into the lines, then you can't get her out. So that is kind of a pain sometimes.
Okay. Shelly, let's go to the next slide here. And sorry, I don't mean to cut anyone off here, but I just know we have a ton of information to go through too. So next we have Nora's. She has a Dodge as well. And it sounds like she's had similar issues to Dee with how it runs, but she also has a rear entry. So then you don't have to worry about necessarily parking spaces with side to side, but it kind of comes with its own challenges. So I'll let Nora kind of talk about that.
Yeah, I've had both. I've had an electric side entry that was a Town and Country, And and this one is a manual rear entry Dodge Caravan. This van has been a nightmare. We got it secondhand, and I've had to put almost probably $8,000 or $10,000 in repairs in it. It does have the advantage that you don't have to use a handicap spot, but I think that's the only thing. I miss having the bench seat, like Krista said, to give some break time or change or just stretch out for a minute. And with the rear entry, you lose a passenger seat. There's two, if you can see in the right picture, there's two jump seats for passengers in my van, so it seats four. But my side entry sat five. So we're missing that. We're missing the bench seat and the storage behind it. Sometimes if we take Blake and we go to the store, we have to get him in and then pack stuff around him to get it all home. And the jump seats, to hook him in, you have to pop up the jump seats to hook him in and then put them down, and then the passengers can get in. So they have to get in last and get out first, so you can get Blake in. Also, with the side entries, with the electric one, we could hit the button on the key, especially if it was raining, and it would all be open. We could run in and get him in and get in and hook him in and all be dry. With the rear entry, you have to run out and do it yourself and get him in, and then you have to hook up the back and run around to each side to hook him in, because there's no turning radius. You go straight in, period, with mine. And our next purchase will definitely be a side. The only disadvantage to the side is that you need to find the handicap spot, or what we've done, if they're all filled up, is you go way down and just park diagonally across two. And if you're far enough down, nobody's going to bother you.
Yeah. I know I was looking, because we're still looking for a wheelchair van, and I was thinking rear entry, but then someone mentioned you're going to have to put all of her stuff behind her. So we make a lot of trips to St. Louis, which is like a 4.5 hour drive for us. So if I have to stop to go to the bathroom, then I have to essentially take all of our luggage out and then take her out and then pile it back in. And then I'm thinking, well, I've already peed my pants at this point in time.
Yeah.
I have to do all of that. So
we went just to the beach last summer, and my mom ended up driving her car because we couldn't fit any of the stuff in the car with everybody and Blake. So she just drove all the beach stuff in her car.
Yeah.
It's definitely more room, exponentially more room in a side.
Yeah. Okay. Trying to think, anything else, Nora, that you can think about for this particular?
And also, like Dianelli said, the Dodge is not the quality that the Town and Country I think we were the fourth or fifth owner, and it was older, but it ran like a dream. This one has been a nightmare. I hold out for the Sienna. They're just great, and a friend of mine has one, and I think it's got modified, and I think it's got like 300,000 miles on it. And Toyotas are just built differently, and this Dodge has been a nightmare.
The Toyota I saw too had significantly more room in the back for luggage or things, and in the middle area. Now, I will say that the last I heard, I guess they're making all of them hybrids at this point in time. And so at the time I was looking at them, they weren't sure how it was going to look hybrid, because they weren't sure where they were going to put everything that a hybrid needs to have. So I haven't seen the 2022 models.
Yeah, I do know that, they weren't because probably last summer we started looking for something new, and the dealer we went to, he said, he said, what are you looking for? I'm like, not a Dodge. He's like, trouble, because, the Siennas weren't coming out because they hadn't figured that out yet, how to make the hybrid work. But I do believe they are available now.
Okay. All right, Shelley, let's move on to the next slide here. All right. So I wanted to show you guys what we did. So when Stella was about just a little over a year, maybe somewhere between 12 and 18 months is when she needed a wheelchair. And at the time, we weren't ready to buy a full-on wheelchair van because for her, she was so low toned that actually her being in her wheelchair was not the safest for her. The safest for her was to be in a car seat rear facing. And so we ended up getting I've also called it a Bruno chair, but I also saw it's called a Braun Ability Tourney Evo seat. And so essentially it's a seat, and a lot of times it's actually for elderly patients that are just needing help getting in and out of their vans or their cars. And so we had this installed. So we have a Town and Country 2016, right before they stopped making them. And so we just put the original seat in the stow and go, and then we have this installed on top of it. And so the whole seat, if you can kind of see the very first picture is her rear facing in her regular car seat. It's a Graco Forever seat. And then in the third picture, that seat is now with a remote control, comes all the way out and it goes up and down. That way we can easily get her up in it. And it's worked out really, really great for us. We'll talk about in here in a few minutes of like how to fund some of this stuff, because these are like $10,000. But it's worked out really well. So Stella's now 6.5 and she's 44 pounds and 44 inches. She's still rear facing in that Graco Forever car seat. And it's been a blessing for our backs. And then Shelly, if you want to move on to the next picture, or the next slide, I just showed, since we don't have a ramp, I store her wheelchair in the back. And so I kind of do this thing where I pull it back on its back two wheels and then I walk it up. Do not look too closely. There are like scratches all over the back of that thing. But at this point in time, I don't even care because it saves my back. And so this is actually us making a trip up to, I think, St. Louis. And so I have her cart, her medical cart that has her suction machine and all that. It is right behind one of the passenger seats or the back seats. And it's actually plugged up because it has a nice little plug-in. So if we needed to use our suction right there, we could. And then I have her wheelchair, and then I have things just kind of gathered around it. And then I had a little spot there to where we could change her, or if she needed to stretch out in there. And then I figured, since I was taking pictures, I went ahead and took a picture. We have now don't look too closely because some of the letters have fallen off of that decal, but I have a little decal that I just had someone make. I know a lot of people from Etsy and things can make those things, but I have that right on the outside of her door. And then I also have like all of her medical information and in a little sleeve, and then I attached it to her wheelchair, or not a wheelchair, sorry, her car seat. That way, if we were in an accident and I wouldn't be able to verbalize what she needs, then they have that little emblem they can see, and then that car seat information has her med list and her emergency list and all that right there in case I'm passed out and can't verbalize that. Where did I get the special needs?
How awesome this is all organized. Like, that is very impressive, Casey.
Thank you.
You make me inspired.
Well, it's funny because, I love my husband, and he's like, I'll carry everything out. And I want to go, no, because I know how it needs to fit in there for me to be able to get access to everything I need in a very organized way. So yeah, I have it kind of mapped out. But, and Teresa asked where we got the special needs sticker. Actually, a friend of mine, I found it on Pinterest, like what I wanted it to say. And then she has one of those decal makers. And so she just made it for us. But I'm sure you could get it off of Etsy and just tell them what you want it to say. Or if you know somebody. Actually, Madison might even be able to make it for us. I know she's got one of those. So
Casey, you bring up
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, Casey, you bring up a really great point. We have one for Connor, but it's actually Velcro, and it fits over his seatbelt.
Yeah.
I got it from a seller on Etsy, and they were able to put in all of his information. So what medications he's on, what his conditions are. So again, same instant, something happens to me, they have all that information as well as a phone number.
Yeah.
And in the state of Tennessee, I don't know if you can see this really well. When I went to her last doctor's appointment, they gave us this for the car, and then they gave us a sticker for our front door. And it basically just says that there is a special needs child either in the car or in the house in case of a fire or an accident. And we also have a thing that we put on Lily's seatbelt. A Dravet syndrome had given it out at one of the conferences I attended. And it's the same thing. It has all the medical information in there.
Yeah, it was one of my biggest fears. I'm like, what if we're in a car accident and I can't speak and Stella needs help? So yeah, it's definitely been something pretty cool. All right, Shelly, let's go ahead and move on to the next slide here. Okay, so we have talked about a little bit of car seat options. So we didn't go into full detail as far as, I know there's like the Carrot and a bunch of different car seats that go through durable medical equipment companies, but those are extremely expensive. And so we were kind of touching on more hacks. And so the one on the left is actually Stella's. And if you can see, so I told you it was a Graco Forever car seat. So just a typical child car seat. And what's nice about that one is it actually elongates. And so I can grow it more for her legs. But you notice these things duct tape to the sides. Those are my homemade laterals supports. And so those are pool noodles. So if you don't know anything about pool noodles, they are like a PT/OT dream. And so I just have a pool noodle that I've cut in half. And I put it on each side of her car seat. So that gives her some lateral support. And then we just have like a pillowcase that we've rolled up to have as a neck support behind her head. So that's what we've done in ours. And then, Shelly, do you want to talk about it, or do you want me to? We're gonna.
Yeah, I
can.
Nico's? Yeah, I can quickly. For Nico, having mobility, not non-mobility issues, but behavior and stability issues. We found this. He was in a normal booster seat and doing just fine, but he was able to like fully just get out of his car seat and run around the car while we were driving. And a lot of other things, like he was able to move the belt enough to reach over and whack his siblings. Like we were having a lot of behavior issues. So we found this special Tomato car seat that has a 5-point harness built in. So it's a booster, but it has the 5-point harness that he can't get out of. So he's safe in the booster, but then safe with this seatbelt over top. And then we were able to buy this stationary base also, so that we can, when we're camping or somewhere where we don't have a safe place to, keep him contained, that seat Velcros right to this stationary base, and he's safe in the car and then safe outside of the car when we need him to be, locked down.
Yeah. And thinking outside the box there for sure. Yeah. On what you guys needed. That works perfectly. And it's easily washable.
Yeah, it just wipes down.
Exactly.
It's really quite lovely. And it can sit forward facing, rear facing, and have a really nice tilt to it if you need it. Special Tomato has so many really lovely seating options for all of our kids.
Absolutely. Perfect. Awesome. All right, let's move on to the next slide there. So in general, I just kind of gave a breakdown, and we will be sending this out to everybody. That way you can actually click on these links. But just in general, kind of some takeaways. It kind of seems like Dodge Van seems to have a little bit more maintenance issues than maybe other make and models. Sounds like side entry seems to be a little bit easier from our experience than a rear. Krista said for sure the SUV worked for them, and it's been working for several years. But, if you have a child, or if you're at that cusp of them getting bigger, you might go straight to the minivan versus the SUV. And then having some type of bench or some area dedicated for changing is really a plus. And then I have on here the seating link that you can go and look, and then also the Nico's chair that we have. So those are just links that we provided. That way we can, you guys can go back and look at those if you need to. All right, Shelly, let's go ahead and move to the next slide. So now we're going to talk about home modifications. And so we have two different things we're going to talk about. First one is Krista. She has a ton of lovely pictures for us to look at. And so Krista, essentially, they built their home, and they built their home knowing that they wanted it to be as fully accessible for Connor. So Krista, I don't know if she's at work, so I was going to see if you were able to jump on and talk a little bit about building your house. So the first two pictures I have on here, I kind of try to group them together, but I know you wanted to chat about the main entrance of the house and how accessible it was too.
Yeah, I think we were able to build. We've been in our prior home for 15 years and knew what we liked and didn't like and what we thought we were going to need for Connor, and especially long term as we went to go through the building process. And one key piece was I wanted him to have home entry from the front, from the garage, where we do have a ramp in place, as well as to other areas of the home. I didn't really want to limit him, other than we were going to go 2 stories high, and we were not going to invest in the cost of an elevator. So we just made sure that our entire downstairs living was suitable to his needs, and put guest bedrooms and things that he doesn't need up on the second floor. But definitely having that very easy home entry was important, but also important in case of emergency. We wanted to know that we had more than one exit point to get him out of the home. So in this case, we can get him through the front of the house, and in case of an emergency, or of course through the garage where the ramp access is. But as you can see in the second picture, we built a sunscreened room. We really wanted to make sure he was able to get an outdoor time, but on days where maybe the conditions aren't suitable, have that screened in effect. But we had to make sure he could get out there. And so we had asked the building team to make sure that as they put in these other entry points, that they had ramps in place.
Definitely. All right, let's go and move on to the next slide. And it has, those out, the garage entry, and then your outdoor space here.
Yep. And that was a key piece. We actually purposely looked for a piece of land that would be suitable to our needs. Our land actually does drop off in the back, and you can probably tell in that picture in the left. But for the most part, from the front of the house to the driveway, which you see in this picture, down to where that fireplace setting is, it's all pretty level. And that was really important to us, was to make sure that we bought a piece of land that had that level. Wasn't going to require a whole lot of bringing in fill dirt and things that would drive up the cost of the project.
Yeah. Now, do you have a 3-car garage or 2?
This I think would be considered 2.
2 cars. Gotcha. So then that way you had plenty of room for the ramp, and then also, does 1 car fit in there as well?
Yes, you could fit a car in there. You could fit a lot in there.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yes. And I was going to say, one of the other, key things that was really important to us, and I think it's good to say it up from the top of the call, when we first started looking at, was building going to be the right path for us, we had met with a builder and an architect, and really thought about doing this from scratch. And it was a very costly project for the scope of what we needed in our home. And we, at that point, started looking actually at a lot of the neighborhoods that were being built up in the nearby vicinity with these, nice craftsman style homes. And we started thinking, I wonder if somebody would modify one of these that they already build. They already know the spec of what, the materials cost to do this kind of home. Could they make modifications, and could we bring the cost of the project down in that way, versus going completely scratch with the builder and architect? And that was actually the path we ended up going down. We found a builder that had a few different housing plans. He'd executed them in some of these other neighborhoods. We were actually able to go walk those housing plans in some of the model homes, and really liked them. So based off of that, we then picked a plan he already executes, worked with his architect to then make modifications to our needs, some of which I think you'll have slides on. But we were able to do things like, okay, now put a ramp in that garage, or make all of our entryways extra wide, make all of our doorways wide, take that glass shower and make that glass door extra wide. And so we were able to bring down the scope of what that project could have potentially have cost, by doing that.
Cool. Now, this picture here, is of your command station, which is like genius. You want to talk to us a little bit about that?
I love the command station. It's probably my favorite place in our house, next to my coffee station. But this is where everything houses for Connor's schedule. Anybody that comes into the home, whether it's a teacher, a caregiver, a nurse, my husband, they can all go to this station and see what is his schedule for the week. If there's any important numbers, they're up on those boards. There is also room for all the electronics to be charged. So it's just a great location for a lot of that important information. And then some of the things we use day in and day out, paperwork wise, like insurance stuff, waiver stuff, things of that nature, they're right behind some of those cabinets. Very easy access for anybody in the home to get to.
Love that. All right, let's move on to the next one. Yeah.
Yep, just open concept. So again, going with this particular home plan, we were able to really already leverage the fact that these plans are very open access anyway, and use that to our ability. So we didn't actually have to modify some, like this area, we didn't have to modify at all. It already really worked well for what we knew would be Connor in a wheelchair and in the years as he gets bigger.
Good.
These are some, I think, really great areas. We worked to actually build in the picture on the right, which is a medicine cabinet that's in the kitchen. We knew that we would need this for his formula needs, his medication needs, but we actually didn't want it to be in the center of the kitchen or anywhere that was really viewable. So to the right of that cabinet, you see is actually the pantry. And then the fridge actually blocks it from kind of the other viewpoint. And so what's really nice about this is we have one dedicated space. Again, anybody coming in, nurse, caregiver, dad, mom, whomever, we all know exactly where all of Connor's medical stuff will be housed. Up on that countertop is the Bible, as we call it, but it has his full schedule laid out for the day, when he gets what medication, what you do in case of respiratory distress. All of that information is right there. Easy access for anybody. And then behind all the cabinets are all the things nobody wants to have to look at. So syringes, formula, medications, diastat, but again, very easily accessible in case of emergency. So that was a really nice thing to do. And again, to kind of put it in that corner where it's out of sight, nobody has to really look at all of that. And then the other thing we did, again, modifying an existing plan, we were able to take the dining room and convert it, since we knew we wouldn't be having fancy dinners. We converted it into Connor's playroom, schoolroom, therapy room. So it's a really great area where his teacher with his homebound program can come right in. She's got all of the pieces that she needs to have a productive school day. All of his physical therapy equipment is in there. So his stander, his Toby speech communication device is in there. And then, which you can't see in that picture, is in the other side, closer to the windows. He has a lot of toys and books.
Yeah. We can go and move on to the next slide. But I was going to say, as far as like a general theme that you'll notice as we go through here, is everybody seems to be trying to make these dedicated spaces, because I know for myself, mental health wise, when I walked into the door and my entire living room was nothing but medical supplies, it's just, I don't know, it was just so draining, because I would just walk in and it would just hit me in the face. I felt like I didn't have any area of my home that was a quote normal home or somewhere I could relax, because it just looked like a mini ICU. And so I love all these pictures that you guys have talked about, because it gives every place a thing, a place, and then also it doesn't look like that you're walking into a mini ICU. It's those dedicated spaces make a big difference.
Yeah, I think that's really important, the mental health aspect. And then I just think also knowing that if something does hit the fan, everybody knows where to go to find something.
Yes.
In our house, people know where to go to get his medication, no matter who it is. And again, if it was something more medically related, as you can see in these pictures with the bedroom and the closet, his chest vest, his suction, his some of those other kind of pieces of equipment that we don't need every day, his nebulizer, they're all sitting right there, either on that medical cart in the picture on the right-hand side. His cough assist is sitting right there, ready to go if needed. Again, suctions right there close by the nebulizer. So again, a lot of those kind of things that might be really important, but you might not be using them every day depending on your child, are close, but not always right in the way. So I think that's really important. And that was one of the things we took into consideration, again, as we looked at what housing plan we wanted. We picked a plan with a really large master closet. By no means is this the largest master closet you can have, but it's large enough for our needs, which allows us to take all of the medical supplies and store it out of the way in the closet. Everybody knows where to go if they need more pads, or if they need more Yonkers, or whatever it may be. They know that they're going to be all in that closet space. And then on the left-hand side, we really liked the furniture and bed that we already had. Didn't really want to have to go to a special needs situation, so to speak. And due to Connor's lower level of mobility, we weren't as worried about him, for instance, jumping out of bed. That's not going to happen. So we were able to go ahead and modify our existing furniture. We used a family member that does woodworking on the side, and we gave them like, hey, we need this many inches off the ground so that we can get a lift up underneath the bed. And he was able to create supports. You can see in the right hand side of the bed, one of them sitting up underneath the leg of the bed, but there's actually, I think in total we have 12 of them that are fully underneath the bed. So it is well supported. You could probably jump on that thing and it's not going to move. And then additionally, he built me a low level stool so I can, very easily get in and out of the bed. And I can take that stool and just kick it right up underneath the bed, and it goes right out of my way, which is really nice. But again, really gives us that flexibility of using the lift, which you can see in that picture in the corner of the room is the hydraulic lift that we have that we use to move Connor around.
Cool. All right, let's move on to the next slide here.
And the bathroom. Such an important room. We spent a lot of time making sure we got this right. So it's a straight shot right from where Connor's room and bed is straight into that bathroom. Again, no lips. There are no any tripping hazards that you have to step over or pop a wheelie, so to speak, to get over. You can just go straight right in. We had the shower designed kind of like a gym shower you might encounter. So it's sloping so that it meets in the drain area. You don't have to worry about any water getting or escaping outside of the shower. And we went with both a shower head that is stationary, but then also the handheld system, knowing that for Connor, that would probably work better with a bath chair. So we have the handheld shower, his bath chair fits in there. And we did have to modify that glass door, went to a larger size, again, to accommodate whether we carry him in, or in the future, we're probably going to upgrade to a new bath chair that's on wheels, and we will just want to be able to roll him in.
Cool. I love this bathroom, and I envy you with this bathroom. I love it. Right.
Yeah, it's really great. It actually, you can't see it, but behind that door is the toilet. It's kind of got its own alcove. And so again, that's really nice too, because that's out of the way. You're not having to worry about tripping on anything to try to get to the shower.
Okay. We skipped over it, but there's a long list of different things that Krista has written out of different things they thought about as they were building their house. So we'll kind of skip over that since I know we're running close on time. So next one, we have Lily's closets. And so now we're kind of talking about, okay, you have a home, or maybe you're looking to buy a home that, and no, you're fine, Shelly. We can totally, I think this is good. We'll move on and start talking about current housing. So Karen, tell us what you've done in every house that you've had as far as the closets go.
Okay, well, before you even start thinking about buying a home that's an existing home, not building a home, you need to assess your current needs, your current situation. What do you like with your current home? What don't you like? What are your wishes? And then assess your needs. Do you have night nursing? So if you do you necessarily want your master bedroom next to your child's room? Or do you not have night nursing? And yes, you do need it close together. So you need to kind of look at all that before you even start looking at a house. And then think about your child. If you have an infant, you really don't know what the future holds. And so if you're building your forever home, you might want to consider worst case scenario and make sure it's accessible and wide doors and everything. If it's just a home that's a stepping stone, you're only going to be in there for a little while, you could probably not do all the modifications. Our first home we built before Lily was born. She lived in it till she was 8 years old, and there was absolutely no way we could have still be in there because it was 2-story. Her bedroom was upstairs. There was no getting around the downstairs. So you just have to take that all into consideration. For me, when we looked at houses, storage is key, which Krista talked about in building as well. So we make this closet here was not what came with our townhouse, which we just moved into. So we hired a company to come in to maximize storage in closets. And I recommend hiring someone because they have computer programs and they literally measure out every inch of space and maximize it. So, like Krista, it's nice to hide all that medical stuff. But you want it organized. Our previous house, we built in tons of built-ins. And when we moved Lily from her original bedroom to her new bedroom, I was shocked how much medical supplies I had that I forgot about. They were in this closet here in the garage. And for those of you who have problems with insurance, as far as paying for a lot of your supplies, you want to be organized so you know exactly what you have. So this is what we did with Lily's closet. What's the next slide?
Yeah, let's go on to the next one. I think it's your built-in, underneath the.
So this had a great little, perfect spot to put a window seat. They had a couch there. And so once again, maximizing every inch of space. It's a smaller room from her previous room. So we put these in. These drawers are really deep. They pull all the way out. So we got everything in there and it's hidden. And then the next one, I think, was her dressers. Yeah,
I love this because it shows how you can still use regular furniture,
right,
but adapt it to our needs.
Exactly. So there's no clothes in that whatsoever. And it's actually a TV stand. And we had it in our master bedroom. And so it's right next to her bed. And that's where we hide all her medical supplies.
There you go. All right, next slide. Oh yeah, this is a picture of Stella's new room. And so again, just kind of making dedicated spots. So we have a lovely cart that we can move around to different places. And so we have this right next to her bed. And then the other picture are cubbies that we had in our basement. And I'm like, actually, I want those upstairs. And so we have diapers and wipes and pads and all those sorts of things right there in her room, ready to go. Yes, Nora. I know we have in her closet. I think I have 12 more cubbies that we use as well. I was trying to think of anything else. How do you deal with diaper changes? We changed Stella in her bed too, which we're going to come to beds. I'm hoping we have enough time. So let's move on to the next slide. Yep, this is just more dedicated spots that Karen had. And then modifying showers. I know we have Karen's shower, we have Blake's shower, and Stella's shower in here. I think it kind of depends on how big your bathroom is. Unfortunately, ours was a stand-up shower, wasn't a full bathtub. And so our shower is pretty small, but right now it's still working for us. But the main thing is finding a bath or shower chair that works best for you guys. Ours needed to be pretty high because of my husband's height, but then also having the adjustable shower head is really important. All right, let's move on to the next one. Yeah, Nora, do you want to talk a little bit about your cool ramp thing that you have, or your little elevator?
Sure. My uncles took it on as a project to help Blake. We live in an almost 200-year-old house, so there's that green door is our back door. And there's 3 steps up to the kitchen. And when he was little, it was fine. And when he got a little bigger, we made a little ramp to get into where the steps are. We'd leave his chair there and then bring him up the 3 steps. And that was getting harder. And so they decided that this was going to be their project. So they put in, they each have a lot of experience in building. They put in the French doors and they built the porch. Originally, they were going to make a ramp. And when they were talking to the city to pull permits for it, the lady said, "Oh, you don't want that because regulations in Massachusetts, it can only be so long, and then it needs to have a landing, and it can only go up a certain amount of degrees per feet." So she said, "You don't want to do that. It'll look awful. Look into a lift." And the lift they bought was actually kind of price comparable to all the supplies to build a ramp.
Mhm.
So that it sits right there. That's up. So Blake was home at the time, and it was about $6,000 out of pocket. The whole project was right around 10. Um, they paid for some of it. My mom kicked in, and Massachusetts, being a really great state, has a program for critically ill children, and I got some money back from the state for the project, which was totally unexpected. Somebody told me about this program, and so we recouped some of that for that. I love having the lift. We don't have to worry about ice and snow. It's a little slow in the rain, but it was much better than. I have a friend that built a ramp, and like in the winter, it's a lot of work because it's only so wide, so it's hard to shovel it. It's hard to keep it, not slippery. So I'm glad the lady gave us the suggestion because it's fantastic.
Yeah, I love that idea. So
Yeah.
this next picture is a picture of Stella's ramp. So for the exact same reason, if we did an actual ADA compliant ramp, it was going to have to like go all the way around our garage. It was going to be crazy. And so if you build a ramp yourself, or if you know someone handy, it does not have to be ADA compliant here in Missouri anyway. And so we had some friends that built this ramp for Stella. So it is fairly steep, but it's fine for her. And so we just did this in our garage so we could still park in it. Let's move to the next slide real quick. This is Stella's transfer system. So this one is really cool. It has a ceiling track. And then if you see kind of in the middle behind her ceiling fan and up against the wall kind of is the actual motor. And so what's cool about this one is that the motor can be taken off of that track and moved to a different track. So if we have one, the next step will be putting one in her bathroom. That way we can get her in and out of the bathtub that we have if she ever wants to take a bath. And so this track, you can add to it and then just move that motor to each track that you want. So it's pretty cool. I was a little hesitant because I thought it was going to look really medical and kind of make her sweet little bedroom look more like an ICU. But to be honest with you, with it being white like that and up against the ceiling, I don't really notice it much. And that the motor itself is the most expensive. But we'll talk about if we get to it. I have a slide that talks about funding, kind of like Nora was talking about. And we have a waiver system that was able to cover all of this for us. All right, let's move to the next slide here. All right, these are all different little things that Karen talked about. And so we'll go back through on when you guys can go back and read through that once we send it out. But I think you pretty much hit most of the things that you were talking about is thinking ahead type things. All right, let's move on to the next one. So we're going to hit really quickly on sleeping. And so Sandy, do you want to kind of talk a little bit about Cam's bed that you have at home? And then the next slide will be his travel beds, I think.
Yes. So on the left there, that's Cam asleep in his bed. His is a Beds by George. And one of my biggest pieces of advice, if you're going to need to do a specialty bed, is allow plenty of time. It took us about a year to get this. Insurance denied it. We did 4 appeals along with his doctor to get it. So we had about a year of like really, it was not good for him sleeping. We didn't really have anywhere to put him. We were using like pop-up tents and stuff like that. These Beds by George and Sleep Safe are very similar, and they come in different heights depending on your needs. You can get ones with just a little side rail. Cam's is the biggest you can get. That's almost to the ceiling. The mesh part there on the top, that kind of cream, that does come off, but you have to remove it with tools. And it's all mesh on the top, so that's very breathable, plenty of air circulation. But Cam is extremely mobile, and he's very intellectually disabled, so he doesn't understand any danger. He doesn't understand, he rarely is still. This, I think, was actually after school. He was so tired, he crawled up in there and fell asleep. And so we had a lot of trouble finding, what is going to work for him, what won't. And we've been very happy with this. The whole side that's open right there comes up. And depending on the height that you get, the doors work a little bit differently, and you can see through it. And he really, really likes it. It's kind of like his little safe place. After we got this for home, I think the next slide is his travel bed.
Sorry, I threw this in there.
Options. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the crafts, right?
Yeah, this is the Beds by George Sleep Haven, I think. And I put these side by side because I wanted to show like how, depending on decorating on how you want it, it doesn't like that's the exact same bed. It's just that the person on the left had it all white, and then they did some stuff on it to make it, more girly. And so I just wanted to point out, you can definitely alter these. They're so customizable to what you want or what your needs are.
And
we can move to the next.
Cam's is just a twin size mattress, so it uses regular sheets. We have some waterproof pads and stuff like that on there. We looked at this one, closes, it's all mesh, and it's supposed to be very strong, but like I said, Cam breaks everything. And so that was not an option for us, but definitely a good option just in general. We try to go on a trip every year. These are two other. The one on the right is inflatable. So also that wasn't an option for us because Cam would pop it. But if you have a child that, that would work for, these are all really good options. I think that's the Sleep Safe up there now, which is very similar to the Beds by George, just a different brand. So my older son plays hockey. We travel a lot for that. We try to go places as a family. We try to go on a trip every year, and we were using a pack and play.
Sorry.
It's okay.
You're fine, Shelly. Go ahead. We'll move to the next one. I think it's her travel one. No, where did I put that? Oh, I know. Move forward, and then we'll come back to Nico's. There we go.
This is called the Safety Sleeper. It was designed by parents of a child with autism, and this child is now an adult and still sleeps in it. This bed is really cool because you can use it for home use all the time. This is not something we found until after. I don't know that I would personally use it all the time because of how strong Cam is, but it is very durable. It's a metal frame that snaps together really easily. They're pretty wide, the poles. And then this, the cover that goes over it is completely machine washable. It comes with a mattress. So when you go to a hotel, we take an air mattress to put in. You can put it up on top of an actual hotel bed if you want them raised up. And so it's been a really good option. Cam's door on his at-home bed did break, and because of COVID, it took a couple months to get a replacement part, and he did sleep in this every night, and it lasted that whole time just fine. This is called the Safety Sleeper. The beds are pretty pricey, which is why it took us so long to get ours through insurance. The Beds by George, the model Cam has, was about $12,000. Eventually, we were able to get it covered by insurance. It just took a long time. This travel bed he has was $4,000, and we got it through our waiver program that's new here in Tennessee. But again, Cam, he has to have somewhere fully enclosed. This specific bed, it all closes with zippers, but they are all on the outside. So it is made for a child that even if they can undo a zipper, they cannot open it themselves. You can get waterproof sheets. Everything is connected. So the sheet you can't get to except for underneath where the mattress is. So they can't pull the sheet up or anything. It comes in a little suitcase. Well, it's not little. It comes in a suitcase. very convenient, but you can tell it was very well thought out by someone. We've had a very hard time finding things that Cam cannot break that keep him safe. And so we've been extremely happy with this. We've had it about a year now. As well as his Beds by George. Cam, he rocks in it a lot, bounces the back, he hangs on it. I mean, it's been through a lot, and we're still very happy with it. So yeah, I think we maybe listed all the names in some websites, or, if anyone has any questions, let me know. But these are crucial thing. Like we could not live without his bed at home. So it was something really important to us.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you found a traveling option too that met his needs.
Yeah, and this is the only one I've found. We looked for quite a while, and there are a couple other options that like that inflatable and a couple other, but this is the only one out there, period, that I have seen that is durable enough to put him in. And it's a twin size mattress also, and so it's I can get in there with him. It's plenty of room. It's really nice, and I really like that it's all washable, because we have had to wash the whole thing, and it works.
Yeah, exactly. Shelly, let's back up one slide and let's have you talk about Nico's bed, because it was a pretty cool option that you guys did at home.
There we go. Yeah, so here up where I am in Canada, I found out it wasn't an option for us to get a Beds by George unless I paid the $25,000 out of pocket for it. So for us, and like 100% of you, that's an absolute no. It was too much. So I'm pretty lucky that I have a very handy husband, and he built, 3 walls around the size of a twin size bed. You can see Nico's roof and the ceiling in his room is slanted, so we had to work around that and positioning. But otherwise, we put some slats on the floor and 3 walls around it, and he is locked in. And like Cam, he's hypermobile, not violent, but like aggressive on his stuff, and is delayed enough that he needs to be safe. He needs to be locked in, because at night he doesn't sleep well like a lot of our kids, and gets up all night long and is having a dance party. This is a really old photo, so now it's painted. It looks nice. You can see in the top corner his Sammy monitor is connected right to the ceiling and plugged in, but Nico still and then we put a tall baby gate there that he can't open, and I think he could climb out, but he still, like 4 years later, just stands there, and he has never attempted to climb out or get out. He hasn't broken it yet, and we are just super happy with that option. And like Sandy said, like there's no way I would sleep at night unless he was seriously locked down. Also in Canada, when I talked to my social worker about the Beds by George and locking him in, they said that it would like be a CPS issue of locking a child in a bed. And I don't know how that's, for me, it's like putting an infant in a crib. Like they can't get out on their own if there's a fire. Cause she said, well, what if there's a fire and he can't get out? And I'm like, he would get out every night. And that's more of a safety issue for us. And we are his safety. So if there ever was a fire, we're going to have to physically go in there and get him out. And Sandy, can Cam push over? So for us, we travel a lot too, but Nico, he is in a tent in our trailer, but on occasion, he just flips it out and falls on the floor.
Yeah, so Cam cannot tip that travel bed over.
Okay.
We had that when we were looking for other things and using like things that are not designed for kids with disabilities. We did have that issue where actually one was fully collapsible, and I used those pictures for insurance to get his bed because he was all tangled in it. I mean,
and they get trapped under pieces. And we had the sleep tent, the one that's meant for privacy in a dorm room.
We also had
and I know other families use it, but Nico, he has flipped it out and been trapped between the mattress and the bed, because you need the mattress to hold. The mattress has to be inside to hold the walls up. But if you flip over, the whole thing goes, and same thing. He was trapped in it, and he's torn through like Hulk, like through the mesh.
Yes, Cam also rips through the mesh of one. We had the same one. And no, this one is much better. It's much pricier, but they will.
That price tag, it's
they accept insurance and so they can work with you to try to get your insurance or Medicaid to cover it. Like I said, we had just gotten into our waiver program and had the funds available, so that's what we use. But yes, it's in fact, I wrote to them to tell them how happy I was with it, because I told them, like, I cannot find any products for my child that work, and I wanted to let them
They
know.
aren't for infants.
Right.
Once they get too tall, they can't go into the other sleep, travel sleep options, because they're little men, they're little boys, they're not babies.
And I don't think we're talking about this today. I know we're short on time, but also our activity chair. There's a couple of things that we have finally found for Cam, only a couple, but there are not a lot of products for kids that are very mobile, but that do not have the understanding to stay safe. And that's been our biggest struggle by far.
Yeah, I would say, Sandy, you're like this wealth of knowledge for if you have, well, Shelly too, but if you have a super mobile child that you need to keep safe because they don't have that personal awareness of safety. Man, these two ladies, they are a wealth of knowledge, and I don't think either one of them would mind you reaching out to them.
No,
So.
especially that they're, nonverbal and faster than lightning.
Yeah, exactly.
One thing too is that, and we touched on this too with the home modifications, is I think we waited too long to do some of this stuff because Cam could walk and he was mobile, and we knew he was very delayed, but the older, he's 9, almost 10 now. And the older he gets, that gap becomes larger. And that's why it becomes harder to find anything for him. And we definitely waited, being unsure. I didn't want to have all this equipment that we didn't need. Yeah. And looking back, I think I would have definitely started sooner. We want to assume that our children are going to be able to grow and develop, of course, but we knew probably around age 3 the trajectory that was, we were going to be on, and we should have started probably sooner. We have some things now set up that are good, but like I said, he's almost 10. It took a long time.
Yeah.
Like we have more dedicated safe play spaces and safe outdoor play spaces that are, unescapable or non-destroyable.
Yeah. It looks like we have about 5 minutes before we're shut down. So if we want to move on to, I think, keep going, Shelly, and I'll kind of, back up one more.
Yeah.
It's okay. Back up, I think, to the right. I think it's Stella's bed. I was going to touch really closely. There we go. So this is just, I wanted to show some non-mobile children and how accessible or how customizable these beds are. So this one's a Beds by George as well. And I was able to get drawers underneath by having the crank system that moved the bed up and down versus electric. So to me, having the drawers under there was more important than having electric up and down. And then I had the doors that come out to the side. I had those shortened because I don't have to worry about Stella climbing out. If you look on the next slide, there's a picture of another Beds by George with the taller drawers. So I just wanted to make sure, like, I actually had a conference call with our DME and Beds by George so we could talk through all these things I can customize, because it was $17,000. And so I didn't want to get something in my home and they'd be like, well, crap, this doesn't work for us. So I think it's super important. And it took over a year for us to get the funding, everything worked out and get it ordered and get to us. So definitely, like Sandy was saying, you have to think ahead. And then the picture to the right is Max's bed. It's a sleep safe bed. So very similar to Beds by George. I just felt like for our family, some of the customizable things and to make it more girly, I liked the Beds by George versus Sleep Safe, but both are awesome. And then the next slide here is just some different travel options, for non-mobile children. So I know this Sleep Wedge, this is Dianelli gave me this gym a couple of years ago. So she sleeps on that, and we use a ton of pillows and different slings. And then Karen Lily uses this side pillow that you just bought off Amazon.
Yep, and it has a hole for her ear so you don't get a pressure sore on your ear, and then it can help with positioning as well, but it's technically a side sleeper pillow.
Yeah, genius. I might have to put that in my Amazon cart after I saw you. And then this next slide, let's see if I remember what's on the next one here. So these were just different takeaways. This is where we had all of the names of the beds that we talked about and links to those. And then the next slide was, how do you fund this? So we all kind of came together. A lot of this has to do with state funding waiver programs. And so really double check with your caseworkers to see if there's any type of waiver that can help you out. Nora's, it was like a reimbursement thing that they had to do it and then file for reimbursement. Ours, on the other hand, we had to get all of it funded first through them. Like they wouldn't have paid for it if we paid for it first. So definitely check all of those. Some other ones we talked about were the child charities. Also, Dianelli said that if you would like a copy of the letter that they wrote, because they ended up having to write 2 letters, and that she's really suggested that first couple of lines or that first paragraph really has to grab their attention, because we've had some families get it and then other families not. So that, just having the SCNAA diagnosis is not a foolproof way of getting into some of these different charities. Wheelchair for Kids has another place that you can look for ramps and wheelchairs. Children's Miracle Network, GoFundMe's, the Variety Club. These are all just things that we've used for our funding, but there's lots of different options there for you guys to look at. So phew, I didn't know if we were going to make it. We're obviously over time, but we had a little bit of a cushion there. That way people can go back and watch this recording. Thank you guys so much for all this information, all the pictures, and coming on today. Thanks for our lead sponsors, Praxis and Neurocrine, to make this happen. And then we will be sending all of this information out, so you guys all have this and you can go back and look through. And then obviously any of us ask questions, send us messages. We're more than happy to share all the good things that came out of this, but maybe all the hardships that we had to go through in order to get all of the supplies, or what to figure out what was going to be best for our children. So,
and any of the families would be happy to chat with anyone that has questions. If you saw something that you liked or didn't like and you needed more clarification, reach out.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.